First up, just wondering, given that you guys are playing Sunday, are you glad to be playing Sunday, given that the recent events of the last 7 days and it's given you a chance to get your head around what's been happening and that you're definitely playing?
Have I got my head around it?
No, are you happy to be playing Sunday?
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, the fact that the game's on Sunday. Yeah, well, I suppose we get to look at the biggest change from a football point of view we're going to look at is the shorter quarters and more rotation. So I think every club's probably spending the last 12 hours on what that looks like for their side, what might be a potential strength or a way to expose a shorter game time. So that's what I'll be looking at with other games and of course the environment as well. Like how does the stadium feel and look like when you're playing with no one in it?
Have you made a decision on who will partner Nick Nat in the ruck, and does that also change given the shorter quarters?
Well, it does a little bit. Yeah, we've got to look at what that means. I mean, Nick's traditionally played, 60, 70 minutes. So whoever supports Nick in that role probably has a reduced game or, they go forward, all those things that we're looking at. So, look, most of our rucks are available. So we'll name 2 of them in the squad and we'll see how we go. So I think our squad will come out in an hour or so and then we'll make the final call tomorrow.
How excited are you to be debuting Tim Kelly? I know there's not going to be anybody there, and I know he's played a few last series games, but given there's been so much hype around him this pre-season, are you excited to see what he can do out there on the field on game day?
Yeah, it's been been a pretty smooth transition for us, but you don't really know until he starts playing, and we probably play a slightly different style than Geelong. It's a different home ground. Geelong Skilled Stadium's quite skinny and long, whereas Optus is wide. Does that affect the way he plays? He's got new teammates. But what we have seen is the same Tim we've seen in Geelong. So expectations are no different than that are on Luke Shuey or Andrew Gaff or Dom Sheed or Jack Redden. They're all a collective, and I know there's been attention on him, and rightly so. He's a new recruit. He's been a great acquisition for the club. But it's not about round one. It's not about just this year. It's long term for us. So, yeah, we're not putting too much pressure on him in his first game.
I gather that Hickey might get the nod ahead of Vardy. What's your thinking there?
I'm not sure why you're gathering that for, Barra. How you come to that conclusion?
Well, I think.
Oh, look, mate, you're not far off the mark.
Yeah, he's
in the squad. Yeah, look, I'm not going to beat around the bush too much with it all. I mean, it's between Hickey and Bailey at the moment. We're weighing up whether Bailey's having a extended time off with his hamstring. So, there's not going to be too much guessing game. Once we make a call, we'll make a call. But look, Hickey's more of a second ruck option who is predominantly a ruck. So, and then Vardy's a ruck that can play forward or a forward that can play ruck. So, looking at the game time and the minutes, it does probably lean towards Hickey more than Vardy in that particular case. And also Bailey's another option for us as well. So, good question, mate. We'll get to that tomorrow afternoon.
No worries. It looks like you're almost at full strength, eh? So McGovern, Darling, Kennedy, all good to go, and no debutants.
Well, Tim's a debutant, but we've also got, I suppose, unfortunately, we're missing Oscar Allen and Tom Cole. They're probably close to our full strength side, and of course Willie Rioli and Dan Venables as well, which are unfortunately both out for the full season. So the team will be a little bit different than the semi-final last year, but yeah, we're happy with the side. I think it's a strong side. I think we've got a strong list and looking forward to the game.
So no question marks over those three, eh? McGovern, Darling and Kennedy?
No, not for a few weeks, Barrow. I mean, they haven't played a full pre-seasons. I mean, JK has. He's carrying a little bit of an elbow, but he hasn't missed a beat, really. He's got to walk around with a bit of a guard on, but it doesn't change the way he does his weights or trains or plays. So he's never been unavailable. And Darling's missed, up to 3 or 4 weeks with that fracture, but he played at intra-club last week. He trained fully today, so he's no worries. And McGovern's played a half a footy against Fremantle and played a full game in our intra-club on Friday. So they're all available and fit and ready to go.
Thanks, Simo. If Brander plays on the wing, does he bring to the team? And that's been a real positive in pre-season, Brander emerging?
Yeah, well, he's 6'5". He's one of our best runners. He's got really good repeat speed and he's got really good endurance. So, whilst we recruited him as a key position player, his body composition probably suits more of a roll up as a high R4 as a wing. So he's had some really good minutes pre-season doing that. Still working through. He's played 3 AFL games. He's in his 3rd season, so we're still working through what his best footy looks like. But he'll play this week. He'll get that opportunity.
Oh, great. So just one more, sorry, to the boys.
Barry,
is there any way you can prepare for an empty stadium?
Well, we trained there today.
This
is your last question, Barrett, too. Everyone's telling me. You're hogging it. But the stadium today was empty. I suppose the only thing we did a little bit different today was we normally play music all session and you try and get a really good atmosphere. And we trained in with the silence of the stadium and try and generate your own enthusiasm. So the boys are up for it. Obviously, it's for everyone across the competition. There's going to be weeks where we're going to appreciate it and weeks where we're going to miss it. Really going to miss our fans and supporters. It's they're the heartbeat of our club. So trying to put on a good show for them is our goal, and we appreciate all the support we've been getting.
Simo, thanks for your time, mate. Just obviously in terms of the season and how things are changing so quickly, have you sort of even come to terms that while it's on hold at the moment, it's all systems go, come Sunday, we could even have a change in the system and we might not even get a game come Sunday?
Yeah, I think the industry's, I know we're pretty pragmatic with how we approach things. It is what it is, and we've got to be flexible. I think it's a tremendous honour to play and coach a side in this situation. Everyone's put their hand up, willing to accept the small risk that it is until we're told otherwise. So we're flexible. Along with the AFL, we've got full support from our players, and as long as they're healthy and fit, we'll put a hand up. But we don't know. We've got to plan for potential lockdown like the rest of society if that happens, or there's no waffle, so there's no state leagues. How do we prepare our players for that? And if there's 4 or 5 games in 2 or 3 weeks, how does that look for us as well? So we're ready to go with all those things. We're working through it. Our priority is Melbourne this week, but we're flexible.
When you mentioned potentially cramming the schedule, with an older group entering the season, is that a positive or a negative? Obviously, you've got the maturity there, but some older bodies, does it make it harder to pull up in a quicker, shorter space of time?
Yeah, I might have jumped the gun a little bit with that because I think I mentioned that yesterday, but the first 4 weeks look like it's the standard 4 weeks. So if and when that happens later in the year, I think that's part of the reason why it's a reduced game time. So our strength and conditioning guys go to work like every club would. Who can manage, multiple games in short weeks? How many minutes do they need to play to get through? Do we rest them? Who's going to get injured? You do a calf now, you miss 3 weeks. That could be multiple games. So, yeah, we're preparing for all that, but there's not much you can do other than prepare for what's in front of you. And at the moment, we've got 4 clean weeks, and that's what we're looking at. So we'll worry about that when it happens.
So given the fact that you've got a healthy list at the moment, that must obviously give you confidence heading into the start of the season and that initial 4-week period?
Well, I suppose you just look at it like any season at the moment with your list in football. It's funny, when you get to the football club, you're actually business as usual as much as you can. So, we're preparing for this week. We wouldn't look 4 weeks ahead any other year, so we're not really doing that now. We've got a list that's reasonably healthy and available. So is Melbourne, and they're a tremendously talented side, and they're on the rebound. So we're looking forward to that challenge this week, and the coming weeks after that. It's not relevant for us right now. We're in game mode. We're in Melbourne mode at the moment.
Hey mate, just the one. Simon Goodwin said this morning that the Demons are actually quite pleased with the fact that they won't have to face up to the Optus crowd. How much of a role do you think that home crowd actually plays in the whole home ground advantage?
I don't know. We'll find out in the next few weeks, I suppose. But one thing I won't be talking about is the crowds and when we play away. So we'll miss our crowd for the support, but hopefully we can get by without them. And we know they're all watching and supporting us from the couches. So but when we travel, I won't be talking about the crowd and how much of an advantage that might be.
G'day, Simo. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Just curious to get your opinion on. Just curious to get your opinion on the mental game this season. It's such a unique set of circumstances. We all know that Richmond and West Coast and GWS would have started the season as flag fancies. What do you think this will throw up now that there's just so much uncertainty and the way players cope with it is just an unknown?
It is an unknown, and it's too difficult for me to comment on how we're going to handle it. We can prepare our players like we do every season with what they might confront. And the goalposts have changed a little bit with the rules, so that's a little bit different to what we've got to deal with. But yeah, it's always the mental side of the game is probably the biggest growth area of our industry, and lots of clubs are putting work into that with mental health as well. So it's all part of our resilience. Having a more mature list is I'm assuming it's a benefit, but you don't know. So let's see how we go this week, and I dare say we'll be reviewing the game more than the mental approach to it. So once the ball bounces, I think it'll feel like any other game.
Yeah, and just your thoughts on Melbourne. They had such a bad season last year. What are you expecting from them this year?
Well, getting Melbourne round one after a season I'm sure they were disappointed in is dangerous. They've had a really good pre-season. I've watched the documentary that they've produced. They look fit. They look confident. There's belief within the four walls. So we know what's in front of us. It's not, it's for everyone to see where they're at. So it's going to come down to how both of us are going and how we both play on the weekend. So we definitely not treat them like a team that's finished 17th. We know that they're a lot better than that.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about Vardy, something to do with his hamstring. What's the go there? No,
that was Bailey. He's probably available, but he's coming off a hamstring. He didn't play last week, so that was what I mentioned.
Adam, I was just wondering, what was your reaction yesterday when the season was announced that it was going ahead? Was it a sense of relief from you, or how did you react to that announcement?
I don't think it was relief. It was probably excitement, I suppose. I mean, you've got us at a time where we've spent the last 6 months preparing, and to be told that the season might not be on or not start on time in our environment for what we do as a job, that it becomes a bit of a concern. So when you get the relief that the game's on, and actually the fact that it's an opportunity to put a smile on some people's faces who might be going through some tough times with work and situations at home, I think that's a bit of an honour for us. So it's a good chance to lead, and I think our players look at it that way. And I know the industry is looking at how they can help put a smile on everyone's faces. So I'm proud to be a part of that. So I suppose it was more excitement than anything.
That was going to be my next question, just how important football and sport in general is to the community. And is it something you've spoken to the players about? There is a lot of people struggling at the moment, and this is something they can look forward to each week?
Yeah, not directly. I'll talk to them on Saturday. But there's a balance between, look, it's just footy, and it is. Some people don't particularly care about AFL and sport, but some people love it and live and breathe our industry. So we acknowledge that. We acknowledge there might not be a lot to do at home. There's not much sport on TV. Obviously, the priority is the health and safety of our players and our staff, and we're going off recommendations from government and obviously the AFL. So if things change, they change. But at the moment, we see the risk is at a level which we can go forward. So we'll back that in and we'll do our best.
G'day, Adam. Just wanted to jump back to the 16-minute quarters. When you heard that change was being made, did you look through your list or your 22 and see other positions outside the ruck where you could use that to your advantage? I
don't think you look at what's an advantage. It's more what does this mean? So it's 90 rotations as well. So what does that mean for, can you play your better players longer? That's probably the first question everyone's looking at. Does Luke Shuey need to come off the ground? If the game goes for 30, the quarter goes for 30, 35 minutes, well, he might need 2 or 3 breaks. If it goes for 20 to 25, well, maybe he gets to stay on a bit longer. So I think that would be across the board what people will be looking at. We've got a few compromised athletes who can't play every minute. So what does McGovern's game look like? What does Nick Nat's game look like? Gaffey, does he need to come off at all? So we're looking at those things, and I'm sure every club's doing the same.
Yep. And do you also go through Melbourne's list and try and anticipate what it means for them?
Oh, not yet. I would assume someone like a Max Gawn, albeit coming off an injury, might not need too much of a rest. So probably across the competition, you might just see one ruckman who can punch out 100 minutes. That's probably where it's going, but that's a complete guess, and every club's different. So we're a bit different than that. So we'll have a different system, but that's the exciting part, isn't it? The tweaks of the changes of the rules, it provides a new opportunity to strategise.
Yep. Just one last one. I imagine it was a pretty tough match committee for you. You seem to have a lot of guys fit and pushing for some certain positions. Can you share maybe some of your toughest calls when you're picking your team this week?
Oh, no. Not really. They're always tough. There's always a decision that's debated on, and there's an argument with someone, and we never fully agree on the side, and this week was no different. So, there's some younger players coming through we want to give some exposure to. The form line, we haven't been in great form in the 2 pre-season games. We need to elevate to another level if we were to compete this week. So, whilst the talent is there and the names look great, we've got to get them to play at their best. So that's what we look at, not just who they are, it's what they've been doing and how they've been going. So, yeah, there's always conversations on the last 2 or 3 players.
Adam, following on from Lockie's question about Melbourne being pretty chuffed about the empty crowd, is there anything that you guys can do to perhaps manufacture an atmosphere, or just anything you can do to give it that more home ground feel?
Well, they can't silence the crowd, I suppose. That's something that goes in our favour. Look, no, not really. I mean, the players are on the ground. They've got a job to do. Some players, maybe they need that environment. Some players might thrive without it. So it's hard to know what's going to happen. I think this week we'll look across the competition. I think we're the last game of the weekend, so maybe we might pick up some things that we haven't thought of without thinking too hard about how we're going to handle it. Like I said, we train there today. We train there every main session when we can, and there's no one there when we do that. So maybe that's gets us in a good frame of mind.
Will there be any immediate family or anyone like that snuck in to perhaps do their best from the sideline?
Maybe. I don't know. I doubt it. I doubt you'll see my kids sit behind the goals on their own. I don't know. I suppose that's up to the powers that be who gets access. But I get the feeling it's just officials, and if you don't need to be at the ground, you won't be invited in.